Welcome back to Exodus Brothers. Today we're talking with Grace and Katie Robinette, two sisters from West Virginia who grew up in a highly controlled, fundamentalist Christian environment.
Their story involves isolation, fear-based belief, and in Katie's case, an exorcism that took place in their home as a teenager. We talk about what that world looked like from the inside and what it's taken to leave it. This is the story of the Robinette sisters.
Thanks so much for being here today.
Hi, this is Katie.
And this is Grace. Thanks for having us.
I appreciate you both taking the time. So I want to just go back in time a little bit. And can you paint a picture of where you grew up and what your sort of day-to-day life looked like growing up in religion?
We grew up in Morgantown, West Virginia. And religion-based, we started in the Assembly of God. And then I'm sure we'll talk more about this later. We moved through several churches, home churches. I am the second of 9, and Grace, you're the fourth of 9. So there's 8 girls and 1 boy.
It's a big family.
Yes. My parents bought like an old farmhouse when I think they signed the day I turned 2. And so our early life, actually all our life, was full of construction. And they built our house up from a little farmhouse to a house for 9 children. Our property was in a neighborhood, but it was kind of on the edge of, and my dad built like a huge privacy fence to kind of block out the rest of the neighborhood. So growing up, we did a lot of like running around in the woods, getting like woods ready for planting once we chopped down trees. So even though we were in a big neighborhood, it still felt very rural.
Very isolated.
Yes, very isolated.
Sounds like Assemblies of God was the start.
Yeah, Assembly of God was the first one that I remember. What about you?
I have very vague memories of our first time going to the Assembly of God. The clearest memories of the beginning of our church experience were actually when we went to home church after the first time we left the Assembly of God.
Yeah, I would agree with that because we were at the Assembly of God and then Grace was like maybe just born or at least very small. And then we did home church for a while.
And what brought your parents into this? Do you know what started that all for them?
It's a little spotty because both my mom's family and my dad's family are not very close with either of my parents. My mom found religion somewhere along the way, and it seems like she kind of led my dad into more religion. From the Assemblies of God, I think we ended up doing like home churches because there were a few men in the assembly who weren't getting the recognition or roles that they wanted. So they decided to start their own home churches. And I think those cycled through like every week it would be at a different person's home. And I think there were like 4 or 5 families involved in that. But these are big families. So you're talking like 30 to 50 people, even if it's just, 4 couples.
Yeah.
And what made the home churches different? Or how are they different from the Assemblies of God churches?
I think they were just trying to start their own thing, like make their own roles.
To bounce off of that, I think that of my memories of the home church, I think that's when the more extremists ideas came into play. We were in home church like right before the year 2000. And I remember there was like one family in particular. They had very big ideas on like Y2K. It was doomsday. They spent a lot of money, if not all of it, stockpiling provisions to store in their basement.
So was our basement.
And our basement.
Like we were grinding flour by hand.
Wow, this is for the Y2K scare?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Can you go into more detail on that?
Leading up to that, and I believe this was one of the times we were doing home church, but it was very focused on like stockpiling water and like dry goods, canning, gardens. Like the world was going to end. So we had like a whole production line in our basement, and I think every other family did too. Like buying like 5-gallon buckets of like barley seed and grinding it up into flour. We had enough like water stockpiled down there that I think lasted us like 2 years.
Wow.
And like shelves and shelves of canned goods, both store-bought and homemade. But everyone really, really believed this.
Like this was not abnormal because it was what we grew up in. And if everybody you know around you is doing this, like this is not, it didn't feel abnormal at all.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, we need to go and like grind another bucket of flour today to get ready.
Yeah. I assume both of you and your siblings all thought this was for sure going to happen. So there's probably a lot of fear around that, right?
I don't remember feeling fear about it. Like it just was normal.
I don't really remember feeling fear either. It was almost like, here are extra chores to do, which include stockpiling, because there was this, it goes along with this theme of like, we were told to do things, but we never got any explanation or rationale or choice in the matter. It was, all right, this is what's happening. You need to do this.
Yeah. And it's not like our world was going to change a lot when this happens. Like,
right.
We didn't have access to like internet or TV or other people. So it really was just kind of like extra chores because we're going to need this food. But our world wasn't going to change that much.
Yeah. And with you guys, you were obviously pretty isolated in terms of where you grew up. How intentional was that on your parents' behalf?
Very intentional. The world was bad. And it kind of part of the Quiverful movement, which I don't know if you guys were really a part of, but is very prevalent in the Fundy community. Like, have as many kids as you can. We are raising an army for God. We're all arrows in our Father's quiver.
And you want as many arrows as you can to send out into the world.
Yeah.
So have as many children as you can. Like, it was something moral to have as many children as you can.
Yeah.
Whether you could afford it or not, or whether it was like healthy for the mother or not,
Real.
you know.
And that's where you can see the control aspect of it too. Like if you can isolate people,
yes,
and getting them to think that this is just normal and the way life is, you can see how it's easy to control people and keep them sort of obedient within that insular community that you grew up in.
Yes. Which is really interesting too, because most of the fathers, you know, family leaders had like very public, normal jobs, like doctors, lawyers, you know, own their own business. But yet the rest of the family was kept very isolated besides the father.
And what did like discipline look like in your home, in your environment for people that, you know, were stepping out of line or needed to be disciplined? What did that look like?
Lots of physical abuse, emotional just abuse. And that could be just like being isolated from the rest of the family, physical spankings, beatings.
One of the punishments from our father was sometimes we would, you know, get spanked with a leather belt, but sometimes he would have us pick out our own switch to get punished with. It felt very like psychologically manipulative because you didn't want to pick out a switch that was too big because it hurt more, but you didn't want to pick out one that was too small because you may end up getting one bigger than that. So
actually, the story that kind of makes me laugh in retrospect, but I have one older sister who's like 4.5 years older than me. And we both had to pick out our own switch. And I knew my older sister was going to pick out a puny one, but I knew that my dad would make us switch. So I picked out the biggest switch that I could find. Because I know he was going to like do a little switcheroo and she would pick out a puny one. And that's exactly how it went down.
Psychologically, right? It's control and manipulation, and it's not even really a choice, right?
No, it's not a choice at all. It's just how you can make the best of that choice if you understand what you have to do.
Was your mom involved in any of the discipline, or was it just your father?
Day to day, some, but hers were more like the paddling or, spanking with a hairbrush or something like that.
She wasn't the primary disciplinarian, but she was aware of everything that was taking place.
And it was like very much she reported everything to my dad. Like there was a year where I got a spanking, I think every single day for like a year.
Was it just minuscule stuff too? Was it just like for big reasons, like you lied or stole something, or was it just for little minuscule stuff?
Oh no, just little things like I didn't know how to do my math.
Wow. So a lot of people that don't grow up in these environments don't realize that for people like you two, that this was just normal life and you didn't really know anything outside of that. How long did that go on for? Just feeling like this was just normal life and you didn't know any different?
For me, until I left the house. Well, okay, I knew it wasn't normal, but like this is my reality, so it is normal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Grace?
Similar. I wasn't homeschooled my entire life. I did some private Christian school, and then I attended public school for halfway through 11th grade through my senior year. So I was aware of what, quote unquote, normal life looked like for other people. But even though like I was in public, in a, public setting with peers my own age, I still felt very isolated on the inside just because the reality of what I had lived and my circumstances were still so vastly different from my peers. And it was very isolating not to be able to talk about what you've lived through or been through.
Yeah. What about like media or entertainment, that kind of stuff? Were you guys allowed or permitted to watch secular movies and music and that kind of stuff, or was that pretty well controlled as well?
It was very controlled. I did find out when I was in my late 20s that we actually did have cable and internet for like a long time growing up, but we never knew about that. So we just like, we would sneak and watch like the Arthur show on like PBS. And we had some VHSs we could watch. We watched a lot of Little House on the Prairie.
Mm-hmm. The Waltons.
No, the Waltons.
Well, until the Waltons got banned.
Yes, the Waltons got banned. So
because what
they
was
were
her
too
name?
bad.
Like Mary Ellen had a bad attitude.
Uh-oh.
I know. I think there was an issue with that. I don't remember what it was, but like somebody...
I think it was the Boys in Loincloths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very bad.
Let's see. We had the Andy Griffith show. There was this, McGee and Me.
McGee and Me, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Yes.
Yes.
We grew up on that.
Yep.
That
Pretty
was
much
later.
Only like
Yeah.
when we were at the Assembly of God.
Yeah.
When we were at like the last church, like even that was banned.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's funny, these Christian TV shows and movies that only those who grew up this way know about. No one else would even have ever heard of them.
Yes. And
Yeah.
my personal favorite that we got to watch was called, I think, The Last Chance Rescuers.
Oh, yep.
Do you know what I'm talking? Like the kids had like a plane clubhouse.
Yep, we watched those too, the detective kind of style. Yeah.
Yes. I loved those. And they had them at like the Assembly of God library.
They're like, hey, look, we can make movies too. We can make entertaining films for kids that are about God in some fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember like those being my favorite thing, like special treat
Yeah.
to watch.
They were good. I'm not going to lie.
I'd watch them again
They
now.
were like, who needs Disney when you have Last Chance Detectives?
It'd be great to find those. Okay, so just continuing to paint the picture. So you're in the Assemblies of God, churches or church, and then Y2K. Can you kind of keep going, just story wise? What happened next? What was going on?
Yeah, how about maybe go into what happened after Y2K actually occurred? How was the response to that?
I think that was during a home church stage.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, oh, well, humans were wrong. Not God was wrong, but like we still need to be preparing.
Like this was a test from God.
Yeah.
And you passed.
Yeah, you passed, you got ready.
Yeah.
And then I think a home church for maybe another year or so.
Yeah.
And then there was a small church starting, was Chestnut Ridge Community Church. And it started like very small, like maybe like 20 families in a rented room on Sunday. So we started going to that. And then they were growing rapidly. So they actually bought the property right below our home property, like directly over the hill. So my dad had known the pastors and stuff. And so we went there for a little bit, and then it started getting bigger and bigger. And some of the families we had done home church with also went there. The dads, they were not getting like the roles or recognition, I think, that they were hoping for. So then we went back to home churches. Grace, do you remember any of that?
Yes, I remember going back to home church right before we went to Saltwell. And that was when, once we left home church with a couple of the families we went there with and went to Saltwell, that's when everything just went on a quick downhill spiral.
So this is probably like 2001.
Between 2000 and 2001, I think.
And did the preparations for the end time, were there other predictions? Did the prepping continue after Y2K?
Yes, but in a less prepping for end times way.
Yeah.
Like everyone was already kind of used to making like their own barley flour and
canning.
And canning. So yes, it was just the kind of more of the same, like, oh, we don't need to go to the grocery store, run down to the basement and grab a scoop of flour from the bin. So just kind of like normal life, but not specifically prepping for an end time, but you are prepared if it comes.
It was more like, all right, you passed the test and like move on. It wasn't really talked about or discussed once like people realized they were wrong.
Well, it's always the end times as well.
Yeah, right.
Every day is the end times.
Yeah.
You said it went downhill from there. Can you describe what you mean by that?
So once the Chestnut Ridge Church was getting too big for the families in our circle's liking, then one of them found this other church, Saltwell Road Church, and they started going. And then really pretty quickly, all the other families in our circle also moved over to this church. So I was between like 10 and 11. So Grace, you would have been 7 and 8 ish. Mm-hmm. This church it's in like Fairmont, West Virginia. So it's Bridgeport. Yeah, Bridgeport area. So we're talking like a 40 to 50 minute drive every day or every Sunday and Wednesday at least. And for Sundays, like we were there all day. We left at like 8 in the morning, got back at like 8 at night.
And did you do any like youth group activities or anything outside of Sunday?
There was like Bible study groups on Wednesdays, I think. Mm-hmm. So Wednesday, like late afternoon to late evening, we would also be there. But it wasn't youth groups. The boys and girls were completely separated. I don't know what the boys did because we weren't allowed to associate with them. But like the girls, they were expected to have kind of like mock Bible studies starting when they were like 6. Like the men had like a men's study somewhere and the women were in like a women's Bible study.
Were a lot of the teachings that you guys read or learned about the Bible, was it pretty literal? Did they take a lot of stuff literally?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of it?
Yes.
And then, of course, like children leading Bible studies. So there was a lot of like bullying and backstabbing in there. And it was kind of a contest between who could be the most righteous child. And Grace can say more on that because she was more in those studies. I was usually up with like the women's Bible study since I was, 11 or 12 and obviously old enough.
Yeah. So to bounce off what you were saying, that's exactly how it was. It was very cliquey and very much a competition. When I was young, I was not about competing. I had my little friend and we just wanted to play together and trade stickers. But there was this pressure from the other girls, around our age and the adults to do these Bible studies. And this is like girls between like 6 and 8 years old leading Bible studies to their peers.
Whoa.
Like bow your heads, close your eyes. This is what God told me to tell you. It was very,
high stress.
Yes, very high stress. But there was also fear in it, because if you didn't like listen to these girls or like sit still and bow your head, then they would go tell their parents and get you in trouble. Then you'd get a spanking. So it was like, a vicious cycle. So you kind of had to at least pretend to comply.
And sometimes just outright lies.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see in a lot of these circles, especially with evangelicalism, that there's a lot of people that are put into these kind of positions that are not qualified. And one of the common sayings I remember hearing was, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Yes.
And that was used to like sort of explain why there's a 13-year-old leading a Bible study, or this person's going to act as a counselor to you, even though they have no experience doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of danger lies. They don't understand the theology, they don't understand it, and they're put into these positions where they're like teaching other people.
Yes.
And there's a lot of that occurs. Is that what you found as well?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yes.
And even worse so, because you're 6 to 8 years old, that's even more pressure at a young age where you don't understand really much at all.
Yeah. And something Katie and I were actually talking about earlier was our circumstances were especially challenging because we're both neurodivergent. And that wasn't recognized or, treated growing up. We didn't get diagnosis or treatment for several things until we were adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it especially hard to go through when you're expected to be joyful all the time. And I know for myself, like I can be having the best time of my life, but my face can stay a little bit blank, which is very common in like ADHD, autistic people. So it was very much an act all the time to make sure even like my demeanor was joyful. No matter what I was feeling, there's no room for anger or sadness or confusion.
We talked about this like with the James Dobson episode, especially when it comes to punishment, where there's a child who's neurodivergent and they're not purposely being disobedient or rebellious. They're just neurodivergent. So they're getting punished for something that they don't even really have any control over.
Yes.
That's a sad reality of these situations,
And the same with mental things. There was no room for depression or anxiety or anything like that. It was just a fact. Well, you don't have the joy of the Lord in you. And if you were really following God's will, then your demeanor will be joyful and happy.
Right. And then Grace, you were saying that this is where things went downhill. Can you go into more detail on what you mean by that?
So after we started attending this church, we already had a lot of isolation at home. There was the physical abuse and, homeschooling stuff. But I felt that everything got more extreme once we started attending there. It was like, they called it disciplining, but it was like abusing your kids was not only encouraged, it was like celebrated. And it was happening in every single family who went there. It was just what you did. It was how you raised God-fearing children as you beat them. So just that mindset. And then also isolation. It was like, besides being at home, like church was really the only place that we went. So it was like what they taught in the church leached deeply into our home life. And the longer we went there, the more involved that we got in the church. At first, maybe it was like the Sunday service. And then next thing you know, we're staying until 8 at night.
And what was the name of this church that you were going to at this time?
The Saltwell Road Church. It's in Bridgeport, West Virginia.
Right. Was that the most abusive church that you went to?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
It sounds like there was a lot of punishment and humiliation that was sort of justified spiritually here. Was that kind of the overarching theme that you remember from that church?
Yes. This is also where the exorcism story comes into the timeline.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that one up. So I'd love to, if you both can, it'd be, I think, interesting to hear. Obviously, this happened to Katie, obviously from your perspective, Katie, but also Grace, just how it affected you as well, watching it all and just hearing both sides of the story.
Okay, so Grace was actually the instigator of this, which she did not tell me until I was probably like in my early 20s, because she was only still at this time, maybe like 9 or 10. So this was like in between 2002, 2003. I got to go to a private Christian school for about 6 months. And it's the one my older sister went to and graduated from. So I'm 13. I was in 8th grade. And I had a boyfriend there. And we would pass this notebook back and forth to each other and like just write little notes in it. And Grace, do you want to take it from here for this part?
Okay. So my older sister, Laurel, and I found this notebook and we looked through it, and there was a part that mentioned one of my other siblings trying to kill themselves by jumping out of a car. So I got scared and I thought that one of my siblings was going to die. So I didn't know what to do. So I took it downstairs and I gave it to my mom, which big mistake on my part, but
valid.
Yes. And unfortunately that got Katie in big trouble because of her notes with this boy. That started a whole disaster of its own. So they pulled Katie out of school and they had her like under punishment. At that time, I was also in private Christian school. It was my first time in school. I probably was there like half a year, and they were like, well, this is happening to this daughter. So then they yanked everybody out of school. So then we were homeschooled again. But finding the notebook led to the exorcism. And I'll let Katie tell it from her perspective and then tell it from mine.
Okay, so as soon as I got to school that day, which was, I think, Valentine's Day, let's just say 2003, I got to school, I noticed it was missing from my bag, and I was like, oh no. And then I hear like later in the day, my mom had called the school and told given the principal explicit instructions to make sure I got in the car with my sister and came straight home after school. So when I got home from school, both my parents were home, and my dad said, like, meet me up in the bedroom, which I think anyone knows what that means. Not good.
Yeah.
So he ranted and yelled at me for, I would say, at least probably 2 hours. And then the eventual, like, I'm going to go get my belt, bend over the bed. I said no, because I was like, no, not one more time. So I went to walk out of the room. He shook me to the ground. And then my mom finally said, oh, stop. And I grabbed my book bag and left. And I like ran away in the woods. It was pouring rain. And I just went out and like laid under a tree in the woods for a while and kind of thought about options. And I finally decided, like, okay, I need to get through this. This life will be over one day. I will be old enough to leave. Just get through today and tomorrow and keep going until I can go.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back home, and as I'm walking back towards my house, I start seeing like church vehicles pull in. I'm like, oh no. Okay, I can do this too. And I guess my dad had called like the other church elders and pastors. My parents had sent up my older sister to keep all the younger siblings upstairs during this. And I think there were 6 kids at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put me on this like coffee table in the middle of the living room, and like all the men put their hands on me and prayed for my demons to come out, and all the women wrung their hands in the corner, and I could see all my siblings like peeking through the banisters above me.
Did you know what they were doing? Did they tell you what they were going to do, or did they just say lay down and just start doing this?
Yeah, pretty much just lay down. But like I knew what they were doing, but they didn't explicitly tell me we are going to pull demons out of you.
While this was occurring, what were your thoughts? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Did you think that maybe you did have demons?
I did not think I had demons in me. It was kind of just like, they're going to do this whether I fight it or not. Like it's going to happen.
So you complied.
Yeah. So I just sat there.
And what did that look like? What were they doing? They're just like speaking over you or speaking in tongues, or what's going on?
Yeah, all the men had their hands on me, and I think we're like all praying at once. Really, I have very specific snapshots in my mind of it, but I don't remember how it ended or what happened after. Yeah, how long it went on. After that, I mean, I was pulled out of school. My twin mattress was moved into a hallway in the middle of the house.
Oh, wow.
And I was instructed to stay there for probably like 6 months.
Just to be watched over?
Yeah, so I could like get up and use the bathroom, but that was pretty much it. Otherwise, I had to be like on that mattress on the stair landing.
No privacy, basically.
No, not at all. And like no freedom, even, so much as the freedom we had, like I could go outside and like go on a walk in the woods. But even that was taken away. And it was just my mattress, cell, and I could use the bathroom, and that was pretty much it.
And so you did that for 6 months?
Yeah, at least.
Wow.
And then, Grace, you had mentioned when we talked something about an FBI agent that was going to the church that was instilling fear. Do you want to go into that at all?
Yes. Actually, I'll let Katie speak on that because this was her experience.
Okay, so there was an FBI agent there with his family, and going back to the notebook from my bag, who's in either 8th or 9th grade, my boyfriend, which is used very loosely. It is a boy I saw at school. He had written something in the notebook about like, oh, he was going to like hack into my dad's files and expose him or something. Just very like big bravado, big lies. Even at this point, I do not think an adult could read it and take that seriously. But my dad had this FBI agent come and pretend to, like, formally FBI interview me several times and, like, threatening me with, oh, they're going to, like, arrest this young man if you don't tell the truth about what you told him. And I told him the same thing I'm telling you. Like, it's a 14-year-old just writing stuff. It's not serious. But that intimidation lasted for several months afterwards with like multiple interrogations that were allegedly officially FBI interrogations.
He came to our house several times.
And he did them at the office too. That's only one instance of this particular agent being used by the church to intimidate children or family members, because there have been several others, just not my personal incidences.
Yeah, so obviously your dad and this guy are using this as an intimidation tactic to scare you even more.
Yes.
And I guess, how did you feel after all this, the whole exorcism event, and then having to sleep in the hallway? What was your mental state then?
Have you ever seen Twilight?
I've seen bits and pieces.
Okay.
There is a scene where it's just like it's the girl like spinning around in a chair and the seasons are passing, but like no thoughts, nothing's happening. It kind of felt like that, just a blank.
No sense of time, right?
Yes. Like I remember it, but it was nothing. It was like the deepest depression.
And how did it affect your relationship with religion or the belief system? Was it starting to crack at that point, or how did it affect that?
I don't really feel like it affected anything at that time, because even at that point, it was already kind of just like get through and get out.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that way when I was even like 11. Like, I just need to get through this.
Survival.
Yes.
Yeah. And Grace, what was your perspective of the exorcism event?
It was terrifying. The night it happened, I had heard my dad talking on the phone to one of the church members, and he told them that Katie ran away. Katie was missing. for all I knew. And then she comes back that night, and all of a sudden there are these men and women from the church, and like me and my siblings are told to go upstairs, that they need to deal with Katie. And so we go upstairs, and then me and some of my siblings like snuck back out of my parents' bedroom, and the stairs leading up to their bedroom were right above where the living room is, where they had Katie. And I remember like peeking down, and like all of these grown men had their hands on her. And I don't remember exactly what was said, but they were all like praying. And they were saying things like, release the evil out of her, like cleanse her, O Lord, like things like that. Very scary. And I remember looking at Katie, and she was like, looked terrified, kind of like partly checked out, partly terrified. And I remember feeling so helpless because I couldn't help her, and there was nothing I could do or say that was going to stop what was happening. And it's a very hurtful memory. And it's still to this day, like at age 30, my heart still breaks for what Katie had to go through. And it's like a memory I'll always remember.
Have either of you ever had conversations with your parents about this since?
Not really. I talked to them a little bit, honestly, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because I moved into a house with my boyfriend at the time and someone I was helping take care of after they had strokes. And my parents didn't approve of that, so they took away the last thing they could take away, which was my access to my sisters who were still at home. And the only thing they said was like, they maybe would have done a few things differently. And well, my younger sisters, like my 2 youngest, haven't ever gotten spanked, or which is not an apology.
Right.
I tried to talk about it, but that was as far as we got. And I think that's as far as it's going to go with them, at least for now.
And what about like just speaking with your siblings? Have you guys had conversations with your other siblings about the stuff that occurred, or is that kind of just similar to your parents?
Oh, no, we all talk about it with each other, as I'm sure many listeners with big families who grew up in this type of environment will relate to. Every child has their own set of parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my youngest siblings have a completely different set of parents. I had a completely different set of parents. The middle kids do.
I think sometimes it's more difficult being one of the older siblings, where your parents are figuring things out as you go along. And then maybe by the time you get to the younger siblings, they've kind of relaxed a little bit or loosened up on some of their super strict, rules and that kind of stuff. But I guess it can vary. But yeah, with a big spread with that many kids, I imagine there's a lot of things that changed over the course of time.
Yeah. And just like that was the first, over the exorcism story, that was the first time I've heard like Grace's perspective from that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, everyone has a different viewpoint, camera angle on things that happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess I was just curious, are your parents, are they still steeped in this? Is it the same for them, or what's going on there?
They still go to church, but they're not as religious or strict as they were.
Fundamentalist?
Yeah.
Yeah, Grace has a better viewpoint on that.
Yeah. They, like, as the years went on, especially after leaving that church, things with them slowly started to get better, and their parenting style changed a lot.
What was the spark for that? Why did they change? Was it just mellowing out over time, or did they kind of start to see the light a little bit?
I think that might have started to see like the error of their ways. I think that as they saw more and more of their kids, grow up, leave the house, go out, have careers of their own, the kids just weren't really coming around as much. And I think that maybe they did some self-reflection on how they parented us older ones. There was never a like conversation or an official apology or, anything like that. So it's kind of like they've moved on from it, but have never addressed like the hurt that they did to their children while we were, going through it.
Which I think is unfortunately a very common occurrence with people who grew up like you two did, is that a lot of these kids that were harmed just never get the apologies that they really desperately need from their parents. Even just that simple, like, I'm sorry, we messed up.
Right.
It just doesn't happen enough. And I think there'd be very big breakthroughs if there was, just a sense of release, and people would be able to move on a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. One story, this is personal, but I feel comfortable sharing. You had asked earlier, who the main disciplinarian was, if my mom was the same as my dad. I remember there was one summer and we would go to this public pool nearby, and I had recently gotten a spanking, like with a leather belt, and I had like bruising up and down my thighs and buttocks. So something you would be able to see in a swimsuit. And I have like a core memory of my mom being like, no, we can't go to the pool because like Grace has bruises. And as I think, I repressed that for a while, but now that I'm an adult, thinking back on that, it baffles me. I cannot imagine justifying that, being able to say that and hiding abuse because we can't take this child to the pool because somebody's going to call CPS.
I also remember that summer, like that specific incident, because the same was true for, I think, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there was cognitive dissonance going on there with your mom recognizing that there was an issue, but yet still not like apologizing or correcting things like, maybe you should stop doing that?
There has to be. And I am a parent too. My daughter is almost 11.
Oh, wow.
And I can't even fathom seeing that and letting it go. I just can't. Like, that is one thing I don't know that I will ever come to terms with.
Yeah, it's obviously it's something that's hard to get over when you don't have an apology from your parent that has hurt you in some fashion, and they're supposed to be the people that protect you.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like you can, change things for your daughter and recorrect it and make her life very different, which is powerful. Yeah, what's your relationship with your parents like now? And also I'm curious how you both came out of this all.
It's civil, not close. I would say it's more maybe like a relative relationship. Like you're friendly with like aunts or uncles,
mm-hmm.
but not close with them.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree, Bill?
Yeah.
So like we all get together for like birthday meals or like holidays,
mm-hmm.
but I'm not close with them. Like I wouldn't think to like share a life thing with them, a success or something I need to talk about. Like there's no animosity there. It's just not very close in my life.
Yeah, it's similar. We're friendly when we're around each other. They ask me about just general life and my work and stuff, and I, keep it very surface level. But that feels normal for me because we've never had like a close relationship. But I mean, I would say it's friendly and civil. I don't feel like any extreme emotions when I'm around them.
Sounds like you both have boundaries kind of in place to protect yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they also aren't encroaching any boundaries. Like they aren't asking really how our lives are going either.
As far as the deconstruction part, what were some of the hardest things to let go of for you?
One of mine is guilt. Just that was something that was ingrained into us for as long as I can remember. Especially as a female and with the purity culture,
mm-hmm.
they make you feel guilty for being alive. And, we were told we were bad and sinful. And, there was a lot of like hellfire and damnation talk. So I would say guilt and fear. Second guessing myself was something I really had to work on unlearning. because we were taught like not to trust yourself, that's like a thing of the flesh and that's the devil trying to get in, and just like a woman's place in life and in the home. And that does not fit at all with my life and my career. And I think even if I never believed it, if something is ingrained into you for 18 years, then it's going to have a subconscious effect. So I had to work really hard in therapy and just a lot of writing and self-reflection to try to undo that.
Being able to tell yourself that you're not inherently bad or evil or sinful for just existing and just being a human.
And trust in yourself. That's like a big one for me.
Like, yeah, our God is there for a reason.
Yes.
Yes. Intuition.
It's not Satan. It's my intuition.
One of my biggest ones is being able to rest.
That's a good one.
Because it was very much like, if you aren't doing something productive to this household, sinner, horrible, you're bad, what are you doing?
Idle hands and all that.
Yes. So I've done a lot of work on like, I'm still trying to learn how, if I'm really, really exhausted, it's okay to go like lay down for 20 minutes. It's okay.
Yes.
And not feel guilty about it.
Yes. But even still now, my first reaction if someone walks in the house is to like jump up and look productive.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a common sign from people that grew up the way that you two did. It's very common.
Yeah, I knew that would be really relatable because that's something I know that a lot of us deal with and still struggle with. And I just turned 35 and I still struggle with that.
Yeah, you deserve to rest.
Takes a long time to unlearn those things and retrain your body.
Yeah.
But really quick, I was curious too, what brought you out of, were you always kind of just slowly deconstructing, or what sparked the both of you leaving this all behind or walking away from it?
I think from like your guys' like introduction podcast, what I saw as like a main difference is you guys were like very into the mission, and I know I wasn't. I was getting through it.
Agreed.
Survival, again, just trying to survive it.
Yes. And that doesn't mean like I am not spiritual and don't believe in God. I just think the God that was presented to us is not the correct God.
So you found your own way in your spirituality, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
You found what fits for you, what's good for you, not what was forced upon you.
Yeah, like I'm not against religion or Christianity or anything of that sort. I am against using Christianity and God for like as a weapon.
Makes sense.
Right. That's essentially what Christian nationalism has become, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have no animosity towards like Christianity. Just how I was raised, God was used as a weapon to hurt people.
What are you doing in the name of God?
Yes.
And it was the same for you, Grace?
Yes. Yeah. It was the same for me. And I found my own version of God like throughout my 20s, and I consider myself a spiritual person, but what's most important to me is finding a religion or, spiritual being that works for you and that you resonate with.
And Grace and I both have taken on very caring roles.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Grace, you're a nurse, and Katie?
I run a nonprofit that provides service dogs for veterans and first responders to cut down on suicide rates.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
So we've both taken on like very caring roles and, reaching people with love and kindness and care.
Yeah, cheers to that. That's the best thing you can do, is just be a kind person.
Yes, and at the end, isn't that what God is supposed to be?
Right. Funny that full circle, right?
Right?
You both have done like an amazing job of coming out of this and having great perspectives now. What would you say to people who are still like in the early stages or still very much in it, that maybe are questioning, like, what do you think would be the most important thing for them to hear?
do some research, like listen to podcasts like this, hear stories from people who have come out of the same thing that we have. I know for me, it was very eye-opening to hear other people relay basically my exact same story. Because when you're in it, it feels like you are alone in it.
Mm-hmm.
So find people that have gone through the same thing as you or out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just hearing other people's stories, because when you're deconstructing, it feels like no one else could possibly understand this, but doing research, listening to podcasts, hearing other people's stories, reading, it makes you feel less alone. And that, if other people can build a life for themselves and get out of it and find a way forward, so can you. But also have grace with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The damage didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be fixed overnight. And it's okay to continue to still struggle with things, like anxiety, depression. That's part of the human condition. So I would just say have grace with yourself. It's not going to get better overnight, but just baby steps.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said and very articulate.
Yeah, there was some study I read that said it takes you 1.5 times as long to recover from something as the time you went through it, which people can look that study up on their own. But for me, that meant okay, I left home when I was 16. So I'm only at the halfway point of healing.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a little bit more to go.
Even what you were telling yourself as you were going through it, I'm just got to get through this. Like having that mental fortitude and strength
Mm-hmm.
to just be like, I just got to get through this day, this hour, this minute, whatever it happens to be. Baby steps and I'll get through it. Just having that mindset is very powerful. Just telling yourself you can do something.
Yeah, I remember the first time I considered suicide, I was 9 years old. And my thought process was like, okay, well, that's not going to do any good, and I can't do any good if I'm not here. So what are my other options? Well, I can't run away, because then I'll have, zero education. Where will I go? Okay, so I just got to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
And then that continued consistently until I was able to leave home. But I look at my daughter and when she was 9, and it breaks my heart thinking why was I even considering these things?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take a moment to say how incredibly proud I am of Katie and make note of what an amazing mother she is to her daughter, Evie. I mean, she is completely done the opposite of how she was raised and given her daughter a beautiful life. And I'm so proud of her.
Thank you, Boo.
That's amazing.
We just appreciate your resilience and coming on and sharing openly and honestly with everybody here. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're both amazing, and the courage to speak out and tell your story that's just amazing. So thank you both so much. That was Grace and Katie Robinette's stories. We're really grateful they trusted us with their story. If this episode connected with you in any way, you're not alone.
Feel free to share this episode, follow the show on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Leave us a comment if you connected to it. We'll be back soon.